6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
Like, what a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris. I'm Chris. She's Anna. We're here after the Vancouver Canucks squeaky bummed their way to a victory in Game 3, the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Edmonton Oilers. Anna, you were at the official watch party at the Raj.
I was.
First of all, how has your week been? And two, how was the event?
How's my week been? I would say mixed. Obviously, Wednesday night, very exciting. Friday, I guess, exciting in the way that I saw the Northern Lights. The result less so, but yeah, mixed. And in terms of the watch party, it was really fun. It was honestly like being at a game, except they weren't there. Obviously, the new Jumbotron is doing a lot of the heavy lifting,
yes.
Which is great. But like, it's like they saved the most unhinged little VTs for the watch parties, because I've never seen they seemed extra weird this time. And Finn was there. Like, honestly, it was a good time. It was a really good atmosphere.
Did you just say VTs? VTs,
like like little bits of video. I actually don't know what VT stands for, but like when you're watching a TV show and they cut to, a video. Like
is it a video transition?
Transmission, one of the two, but yeah.
Okay, sure. So the weird stuff, watch party. Got it.
Yeah.
Weird stuff and watch party.
There you go.
Well, it's good to hear that your week was mixed as opposed to completely horrible. I kind of get the whole Friday thing. I had overall a bad week. Obviously, the result on Friday night was not the one that either you or I probably wanted to see, hoped for, or ultimately wished upon the team. We'll get into it, obviously, in this episode, but tonight's result, much better, especially considering the Vancouver Canucks decided that, this Edmonton Oilers team isn't that good, are they? And the power play isn't that vaunted. And hey, who cares if, you've chased a goaltender? Let's be kind and stop throwing the puck at that net too. So yeah, we'll get into all of that. Obviously, as we get into rewind here. But we did mention you got to see the Aurora. I did not. My wife, daughter, and I did go out late Saturday night. My daughter was up way past her bedtime, and she's a night owl. Like, we probably let her stay up far too late in the first place. Didn't see squat last night, and it made for a very interesting day today, getting her out of bed early to go to swimming lessons.
Yeah. I didn't see anything last night either, and honestly, what I did see on Friday was mainly through a phone camera.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, is that cameras would pick it up, but the naked eye could not.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, what's going on with the technology that our eyes do not possess? I do know that the light pollution that we have in Metro Vancouver is a contributing factor. There isn't really anywhere you can go to get away from it. Like, we were pointed out to our daughter how, we're in a dark park that we have gone to. There's trees all around us, but there's so much light pollution. You can see this sort of white band above the trees. And
yeah, it was hard. Honestly, I saw a little purple haze, and then I got a decent picture, but yeah, it wasn't like I could see in town. But I wasn't expecting to see anything when I woke up on Friday morning, so it was cool.
Yeah, I've seen it myself here a couple of times. Nothing like the pictures that people were sharing. Like, I've seen sort of the green and blue, none of the purple or pink. I had a trip up to Whitehorse where I got to see it, and that was pretty cool.
That's on my bucket list for sure.
And it was also the first time I got to sort of experience. No, it wasn't like no night, but the sun didn't really set until 11 o'clock midnight. It was really surreal when we're doing this sort of pub crawl and there's still somewhat of a sunset on the horizon.
Yeah.
When many establishments are starting to close.
Yeah.
So that was unique.
I love how we said we'll make this quick and we're on like a 5-minute transgression about the Northern Lights. Or digression.
Okay, well,
rather.
let's make this a quick segue to rewind. When we last spoke to you, I mean, again, this is some time ago, the Vancouver Canucks had just sort of gotten things underway, right? Like, you know, Edmonton was coming to town. We were prognosticating as to what might be transpiring over the course of the series. Mm-hmm. I said Canucks in 7. I'm trying to think. Did you say Canucks? Or
I did end up saying Canucks in 7. I just said it way less confidently than you. And
when the first period got underway on Wednesday, I was like, well, I hope the Canucks can make it in 7. Like it felt, one, note to Vancouver Canucks. You've heard nothing more than Edmonton has a good power play. They're 100% in the postseason. Like they've played 5 games and every power play opportunity they've received, they've scored a goal on. Why would you take a penalty within, what was it, the first minute of the game?
Yeah.
To simply, I don't believe what the pundits are telling us.
And it was on a failure to count once again, and Canucks have had far too many failures to count.
Oh, man. Well, see, you know, you take a 6-pack to the bench, the goaltender takes one, and there should only be 5 beers. And if you don't have a beer, you shouldn't be on the ice. That's probably the way to go about it.
That's a good way to think about it.
But yeah, we got to see pretty darn quick that, yes, the Edmonton Oilers power play is wicked awesome when Zach Hyman scores at 2:11 in the first period. And it's like, okay, no big deal. The crowd understood the assignment. The fans in the building are like, no, we're going to overcome this. And I think the Vancouver Canucks did fairly well at weathering much of the Edmonton Oilers storm, but it was clear that the Canucks were playing against a different level of competition than they had against the Nashville Predators. But we were seeing Edmonton stick to their game plan, which you and I had talked about. Like, hey, I don't think Edmonton's going to do what Nashville did to Vancouver. And what has transpired since that sort of first period is the Vancouver Canucks have had more flexibility and freedom to play the game that has gotten them the level of success throughout the regular season. Granted, you know, walking things back here, Canucks being down 2-0 in the first, when Dakota Joshua scores, you know, shortly into the second period, you know, I'm celebrating, woo, yay, Cody Ceci, and then Zach Hyman very quickly muted my celebrations, and I'm thinking, well, they can, you know, they're going to have to lose at least one game for the Canucks to make it to 7, so, oh well.
True.
When Lindholm scores late in the second period, that goal didn't seem too significant at the time, but it caught me thinking that Stuart Skinner really wasn't that good. Like, he seemed fallible.
He's definitely fallible, which, I mean, we pointed this out right before the series got off to a start, but, like, Edmonton are fallible at the back end, and, like, the primary cause for that is the goaltending tandem, which is, I would say, shaky. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that today as well. Well,
so fast forward to the third period. Did you honestly have belief that the Vancouver Canucks were in a position to storm back and tie the game?
Not at all. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. I was like, I did have a lot of faith when Canucks were, 2-1 down. Like, it just seemed like Canucks were, like, about to equalize. Like, they seemed on the cusp of it, and then it was very quickly 4-1, and I was like, oh, womp womp.
Yeah, like, the CC Hyman goals were like, that was it. That, it just, all wind was taken out of the sails. People out there would say, well, the Canucks were completely dominating the period. So true. Edmonton got 4 shots on net. they scored twice. And going into the intermission, you would think that Knobloch would go and tell his team, hey, boys, let's settle down here. We've still got this one in control.
Batten down the hatches, you would think.
Yeah, and hatches buttoned down, they did not. In fact, they played a weird third period where they would park the bus. Like it almost felt like Edmonton was of the belief that they needed to hold on. And the Canucks, seeing that this is happening, were like, well, we know we don't have a chance unless we put our foot on the pedal.
Yeah.
And they generated opportunity after opportunity. When JT Miller scores to make it 4-3, I'm like, oh my goodness, this Canucks team has a chance to tie it up. When Zadorov scores his goal, Big Z, and yes, I know I'm Canadian, I should say Big Z, but that's for
Big
Zeddy.
Z sounds better.
Big Z.
It just does.
Scores that goal, blows the roof off the building. People are just going nuts. Only to have Big Z shown that there's a bigger player on the ice by the name of Connor Garland.
Yeah.
Less than a
Twins
minute later.
power.
And the Canucks take the lead. And it was just like, oh my God, they did this? This was even possible?
I mean, talk about not doing your homework. Like Stuart Skinner said in the postgame that, well, he bit on that Connor Garland slap shot because Connor Garland's always taking slap shots. And it's like that Connor Garland? The 5'5" Connor Garland?
Hey, he's 5'11".
With skates on his tiptoes. But yeah, I mean, he's clever, right? He's just okay, well, he's not going to score with power. He's going to be sneaky.
And sneaky he was. I mean, that goal was just unbelievable. And this is what's crazy is the Vancouver Canucks then realize, holy smokes, we might win this game. They proceed to go and play a game of Park the Bus. So it got a little,
it did.
Squeaky bum.
It did.
But while the bum may have been squeaky, we got the dub. The Vancouver Canucks won game 1. There were people out there saying that the Edmonton Oilers were going to beat the Vancouver Canucks in 4. There's no way the Canucks can take a game off the Oilers. Well, hey, they took game 1. So going into Friday, there's this thought that, okay, the Canucks legitimately have a shot here. And I may have started to believe they had more of a shot the way sort of game 1 was playing out. Did you hear who scored his goal on the power play early in the first period of game 2, Anna?
Yeah, I heard previously MIA player by the name of Elias Pettersson. He gets
Even that goal.
He did get a significant assist on the series-winning game goal in Nashville. But anyway.
Hey, doesn't matter. Petey goes and gets himself a goal on the power play. 2 things have occurred here. The Vancouver Canucks have shown that their special teams isn't, 1, to be trifled with, and 2, Petey breaks the ice. And I am going to fast forward a little bit here. I feel Petey has been playing a little bit more confidently, so I don't know
I agree.
if there's more going on. He had been off the ice the previous day due to what the team was saying was sickness. And I think you and I have talked about the possibility of him playing with an injury. It's like, we don't lie. We're not a team that lies. He's just been sick. Whatever it might be, it does seem like Petey is...
weird thing, by the way, for Tocchet to say. It's just it's NHL in the playoffs. We know you're not going to tell us the truth.
Petey's got a sore big toe. Please don't step on his foot.
Okay. I also have a sore big toe, Petey, so no one's stepping on my foot.
So the Canucks get this goal, and I'm thinking, wow, yeah, people have taken this team for granted. The problem is the Vancouver Canucks still had not yet got the memo that taking penalties is bad.
Yeah. Taking penalties against a team that has Connor McDavid and even an injured or whatever, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, game time decision, guy goes out and gets 1 million points. Ties it up 1-1. And I just, if there's something that I can whisper into the ears of the Vancouver Canucks, because I know all the players listen to our show, don't take penalties. Don't put yourself in a position where the referees make the call. Don't do it. Bad. sure, you didn't do too badly tonight. We'll get into that game in a moment. But still, that Oilers power play looks...
It's scary.
like the Vancouver Canucks power play did at the early stages of the regular season. They move the puck fast.
Yes.
They cycle around. They find the lanes. They're able to go and find that player who's wide open on the opposite side of the net with almost at will.
They seem to have
score.
so much time. I've never seen a power play so relaxed, but so effective.
It's unbelievable how well it does. I honestly don't know. One, was this power play like that throughout the regular season after Novak took over? Like what occurred here? Or is it just something that has found its way to elevate itself in the postseason? Like whatever it happens to be, special teams is where it's at. Second period though, Brock Besser gets the Canucks back in the lead, 53 seconds in. And I'm thinking, yeah. Problem is, I got up to get a drink of water and I come back and it's tied 2-2.
Yeah. They weren't so good at holding the old lead on Friday.
Oh, but while that might be true, when, Big Z goes and gets that goal late in the second period, this guy is just, if the Canucks don't bring him back in the offseason, I'll be a little upset. Like, I know his play is pricing himself in a way that could make it difficult for the Vancouver Canucks. But he is showing that he is, on the offensive side on the blue line, I don't know if there's really anyone else other than Quinn Hughes that you could truly consider as being an offensive threat.
Yeah.
And Zadorov, the guy's got some cojones. Like, he'll bring it in and take shots from like crazy angles. He's got a good bomb to, slap in from the point. Like, I just love what he does. And he's playing with a whole lot of confidence. But that goal to take the lead in the second period had me thinking. It really had me thinking, Anna, that this was possible.
I mean, just like, I feel like we're repeating ourselves, but like Zadorov in the playoffs, he just shows up, and he shows up in the big moments.
Yeah. Problem is in the third period, the Vancouver Canucks too thought they had a chance. They just felt that by not shooting the puck could be the way to win. Problem is in not shooting the puck, one, you're allowing Edmonton to control play. Two, Edmonton, I don't know if you heard this before, Anna, good team. Connor McDavid scores early in a third period on what was, quite frankly, a misstep by the Canucks defense. So Soucy goes to lay a big hit. I can't remember which Oiler he tried to lay out, but he completely misses it. Yeah. And he takes out the Canucks, I want to say, was it a forward? I don't know who it was, but a fellow Canuck. And that proceeds to put his defensive partner in a horrible position. McDavid's off to the races, comes in, scores on a breakaway. There's some argument that whomever it was should have just hauled McDavid down and given him a penalty shot. But let's be honest.
He would score that, yeah.
Yeah, like breakaway or penalty shot, I think McDavid's scoring the goal.
So, I mean, we'll get on to tonight shortly, but like, there's desperation moves that you have to do to stop your opponent scoring. Like, it can get scrappy and whatever. It can become messy. It can become ill-disciplined. Carson Soucy didn't need to do that. Like, that was like a desperation move, but like, it's unlike him, I will say that.
Well, was it desperation or was it sort of the way the game was going? Because if we haven't really spoken about it, but there was a moment where Quinn Hughes got intimately close to Connor McDavid's stick.
Uh-huh.
And
Quinn Hughes definitely did that because Connor McDavid would never.
No, and you think as to how the game was starting to develop, it was, in my mind, more of an emotional play on Soucy. Like, Soucy went to go and get the big hit to just like introduce him or reintroduce himself into a game. But that wasn't the point in time to do it. You're playing park to bus. You don't go and point.
Yeah, it was the ill-disciplined move.
Because even if he gets the big hit, that puck's already past him. Yeah. And honestly, I think McDavid still gets a breakaway. Why? Because you went and pinched for no apparent reason other than to lay a guy out
Yeah.
And you didn't do that right either.
Exactly.
The Canucks continued to play a game at Park the Bus, though. It was just so scary that they felt there was no need to generate any offense whatsoever. But they limped to overtime. And I don't know how to really say it any differently. But Ian Cole's got a deft tip in. Like, that guy's stick knows how to score goals.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ian Cole, we haven't even really mentioned him yet, and
Sleeper
I don't
agent. Ian Cole.
I don't want to go too hard in, on what is also a collective, team failure, but there are points in the game that you can pick out of Ian Cole maybe being unlucky, but also because he's in the wrong place, or he's behind the play, or he makes a move too late. He's just not, he doesn't think the game is fast at the moment as an NHL playoff player needs to.
Yeah. I want to say that's harsh, but in reality, your assessment seems to carry significant water here. He is definitely not reacting the way the Vancouver Canucks need him to. His positioning doesn't seem to be quite right, or if it is correct, he's not positioning himself in a way that doesn't cause him to be a liability. I mean, Canucks lose game 2 in a game that they could have potentially won, but then we fast forward to tonight, and it wasn't really squeaky bum time in the third period until Ian Cole felt the need to position himself in such a way that a puck could be banked in off of him. That's two games in a row where I think it was Bouchard in both goals, was it not? I mean, Bouchard scored the goal in overtime. It might have been Bouchard again tonight, but goals are banked in off of Ian Cole. And,
And if it happened once, right, you're just like, okay, that's unlucky. But honestly, the 2 goals that went in off him are less of a concern to me than the 2 opening Oilers goals on Friday where you would put him firmly in the spot to blame. But either way, it's just the whole context of him. We've seen some really good, smart veteran moves over the season by him, but we've also seen a lot of he lashes out because he's behind the play, or takes a dumb penalty, or pinches the wrong time. Yeah. I'm not saying he's the biggest problem, but he is a problem, I would say, with the Canucks playoff game.
Certainly. So, we've caught ourselves up to the game that just took place. The Vancouver Canucks roll into Edmonton. Edmonton fans are just of the opinion that the Vancouver Canucks were lucky in game 1 to get the win. Clearly the better team won in game 2. And to be honest, I don't disagree, especially with how the Canucks played the third period. So, okay, cool. The better team won game 2. The Vancouver Canucks didn't listen to the whole better team nonsense, or maybe they did and, took that underdog role to the next level. But they come out and reset how they played to be more in line with how they played the first period and quite frankly, maybe the second period in both games 1 and 2, where the Vancouver Canucks were faster, were getting pucks towards the net on Skinner, making him earn his paycheck.
And throwing hits from the first shift,
Yeah, and, it's interesting that Edmonton, clearly doesn't have an answer to that. I did not watch a lot of their series against LA, but from what little I've read, LA tried to play more like Nashville, where they would sort of,
but that's the way LA have
up.
been playing for a while. That's
correct. Whereas Vancouver does want to hit and play the body, but they also look to use the body to then separate player from puck and then counter real fast. And Edmonton doesn't seem to have an answer to that level of Canucks response. I feel that the Vancouver Canucks have looked more in control when they've stuck to their game plan. Where they have faltered is when they allow Edmonton to maintain offensive control, maintain that possession. And there is so much of, buckle your seatbelt, hold on, we're going to try to flip the car. Everyone makes it out alive, I hope.
Nice. Nice reference there.
That's what it feels like. And especially like the third period of tonight's game where they were allowing Edmonton to dictate what was taking place. And again, Vancouver, not to suggest that they're going to be able to dictate the play themselves. Edmonton is a good team. But you go and respond by trying to take that momentum, take that level of control and dictate it your own way. And so in that first period where Vancouver, okay, sure, if you haven't heard this already, Edmonton, good on the power play.
Yeah, feel like we've covered this, and yet Canucks continue to take dumb penalties.
But what do the Canucks do? The moment they get a power play opportunity, they answer. I don't know. They talked about it during the broadcast, but Besser was playing the point. Quinn Hughes was on the half boards. JT was on the opposite side. Lindholm was in front of the net. And I don't know, was Petey out there somewhere? I wasn't entirely sure. I think BX has said it sort of, they stumbled into this setup, but if they stumbled or not, I think there's something here.
No, to me that looked deliberate, that Besser was like Besser's never done that before, like surely.
But I'll admit, Besser. I like Besser. There'll be a little more just, defensive responsibility there than maybe JT would be. I think I would prefer if you were going to have someone back there, Petey, because Petey is more defensively responsible.
I agree, but it worked.
It worked. And, what was originally thought to be a Brock Besser goal turned into an Lindholm deflection. Why is that important? Because Brock proceeded to follow that first alleged goal up with two more in the first period, getting himself a hat trick where people threw their hands on the ice at Rogers Arena, only to learn midway through the second that, tricked you, Brock has too.
Fun tidbit. Just if you didn't see my Twitter, because it's not a home game, they didn't have an ice crew, so no one had
just
skates.
Hats littering the ice.
Well, they had people just slipping around getting the hats. They should have sent Finn out. Like, Finn has skates at least, but he seemed to be the only one with skates in the building. So the poor Rogers Arena workers were just slipping around in their shoes trying to collect all the hats. Bless them.
Yeah. But what I liked about the Vancouver Canucks in the first period is after that they got that goal. In fact, before they got the power play marker, they continued to play sort of front foot hockey. Again, the type of hockey that Vancouver has success with. And Skinner seems somewhat fallible, was giving up goals. The fact that he gave up, I think the goal that hurt the most was the second Lindholm goal in the second. But he was showing that he isn't this impenetrable force that the Vancouver Canucks can't get pucks past. I mean, the Canucks only got 18 shots on net the entire game. And yet scored 4 goals in those 18 shots. It's not a good save percentage to have, especially in the playoffs. Sure, Draisaitl gets a power play marker in the second period. Don't know if you've heard this, Anna. Oilers, deadly power play. But what did the Vancouver Canucks do? Well, they responded. Lindholm gets a power play marker, and that's the goal that I felt, sure, special teams and all, but that's the goal that I felt showed that Skinner, not quite there. Not where the Oilers would need him to be successful. They it's like the Grant Fuhr method that I refer to. Grant Fuhr would make that one big save, and the Oilers in front of him would score 20 goals.
Right.
So that the final score was 20-19 or 20-18 or whatever it was. I exaggerate. It was never that big. But Grant Fuhr knew how to make that one big save, knowing his team could produce in front of him. Yeah, I think this Oilers team has great offense, but the Vancouver Canucks aren't the pushover that I think everyone thought they would be. And for the longest time during the third period, despite the Vancouver Canucks playing a game of we're not going to go and put a puck on Calvin Pickard, it didn't feel to me that they didn't have some modicum of control. until, Evan Bouchard banked one in off of Ian Cole.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that just followed a empty net attempt hitting the post.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently a post is not good goaltending, but what do you call it when there isn't a goaltender? I don't know.
Yeah, well, no. So if it hits a post, that's great positioning by the goaltender, but it's also not counted as a shot because the only way you can score a goal is through a shot on a net that goes in, not a shot on a post. Can't score that way.
Yeah.
The Bouchard goal really gave me squeaky bum.
Oh, yeah, big time. I was like, I went to the watch party with my friend Hillary, and we were just grabbing each other's hands, just barely breathing.
Glad you said hands. I mean, we're talking about squeaky butts here.
But yeah, just going back to what you said about, like, Canucks' route to success. The thing is, like, Canucks, like, Oilers are a better team. They are. Like, their offensive prowess, like, puts them over the top big time. Canucks can't afford to sit back. They can't afford... You have to take it to them because their weakness is in goal. So they can't afford to play anything but front foot hockey, as evidenced by tonight, where they did do that, and they still almost lost.
Yeah. I sort of skipped over this. There were a couple of changes in the game. Lindholm was in for Höglander, and Ullman was in for Di Giuseppe. I thought Lindholm had a good game. Or
yes.
not Lindholm.
But Lindholm did.
Lindholm had a good game. I meant Linus Karlsson. Sorry.
But Linus Karlsson, yes.
I thought Linus Karlsson had a good game, all things considered. Ullman, he didn't have a bad game. He just, I mean,
he had a couple good chances actually. In front of goal. I would say that those were kind of the highlights of his game. But yeah.
But the thing is he didn't stand out, which is equally as important as not standing out for the wrong reasons.
I do think, obviously, Höglander's not had a great playoffs, like, that's for sure.
He also got speared in the Höglanders.
He did get speared in the Höglanders. That happened. That was a thing. Obviously, he can look at Pedersen's other wing and feel quite hard done by, given Mikheyev's never going to score again, ever. Höglander works pretty hard.
He's a pest.
He's a pest.
Höglander's a pest.
For sure.
Like, I like that part of his game, and I feel that Linus Karlsson is not replacing that.
No, for sure not. Although, as friend of the show, Dan Murphy, tweeted today, he does have the distinction of being traded for Lou Lamoriello early in his career.
Legit?
Yeah. The rights to Lou Lamoriello. Guess it was a thing of, you can have the GM if we have the player.
So is this like how the Vancouver Canucks got a draft pick out of Tortorella?
I guess so,
sort of the same thing? And then the Vancouver Canucks tried to get a draft pick out of, what's his name, who's in Pittsburgh now. But the NHL said no to that.
Why am I blanking?
Anyhow.
Yeah, that guy.
So,
anyway.
Canucks are up 2-1.
2-1.
They have
amazingly,
at worst, guaranteed 6 games. They have at worst guaranteed 6 games, potentially 7. My prediction, your prediction are still possible. In fact, it could go the other way. The Canucks could wrap things up even quicker if they'd like to, though I don't get that sense that that's going to happen in this series. That said, I wanted to bring in a few things that, people were talking about on Threads, how I'm a little more active there. And, something that I think, lines up with what we've talked about before is from, Joel Daly, who's, daily CWWP on Threads, had said the officiating as being something that we should talk about. The officiating, it's not been brutal, but it could definitely or certainly be better. Not just the Canucks Oilers. The Florida-Boston series has been worse. Full-on mugging with no calls. So, I mean, I can't speak to the Florida-Boston series. I haven't seen a lot of it outside the fact that I did watch a little bit of it tonight.
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces. The Bennett.
The officiating in the playoffs, though, and you and I have spoken about this on this show, and in fact, I think I've spoken about playoff officiating on this podcast since the day it was born. I don't understand why the officiating standard has to change for the playoffs. Like
Yeah,
if you're going
and
to call it a penalty in the regular season, you should be calling it a penalty in the playoffs. And if you were to say, well, no, that's not the way it should be, then don't call it in the regular season. Just call the regular season like it's the playoffs.
that's the thing. And I know, like, a big thing from the Florida-Boston game tonight was a challenge for goaltender.
The cross check.
Um,
I should say I have some skin in the game. I'm not a big fan of the Boston Bruins. I hold a grudge. I'm a Canucks fan. It didn't occur to me that should be a penalty, but considering how weak the NHL, calls things as far as goaltender interference is concerned, I thought, having seen the replay, oh yeah, that goal's coming back. So I was genuinely surprised when it was ruled a good goal. And I have to wonder, is that because of the non-call on the ice, and then therefore the overhead and side angles could not definitively show that it wasn't the Bruins player who created most of, like, he was pushed, the cross-check, like, I don't disagree. The cross-check caused him to go towards his goaltender, and maybe he accidentally fell into his own goaltender. But that event started well before the puck was present. Like, it just...
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but I also agree that goaltender interference is never called well, even in the regular season. Like, it's just voodoo as to what... Like, we've talked about goalies being voodoo, but, like, what the hell is goaltender interference? Like...
We talked about this last series.
Yeah, with Tocchet. Like, Tocchet didn't challenge it, and I'm like, well, maybe he would have gone nowhere.
What we saw tonight in the Florida-Boston game, that is why. Because what ultimately occurs, you get it wrong, and you're back in the box.
And, like, I'm sure you're right that the non-call on the ice, like, obviously, Edmonton thought they had a goal. It was called no goal on the ice. They replayed it 100 times. Yeah, there was nothing to overturn it, right? Like, you would have to show substantive evidence to overturn the call of no goal on the ice.
So another follower of mine on Threads, Kathy _Richards61, actually commented on that. Black laces versus white.
I mean, clearly black. Go black, because creates confusion.
Well, and, I had never really considered it until they really showed they showed that goal in LA, and I'm like, oh, that's clearly in. You can totally see. And like, yeah, if I'm a goaltender, I don't care what gear, I want black laces.
Yeah.
In fact, have those laces nice and tight so that it totally obfuscates what might be or might not be inside of the mesh of my glove.
Yeah, totally. Marginal gains, right?
Yeah. I don't, looking at the angle, I don't know if the puck is wholly over the line.
I don't think it is, if I had to pick, but I couldn't.
But those
say
black laces made it very clear we couldn't tell one way or the other.
Yeah.
Those white laces, that would have been a slightly different story. Not to say it's a goal or not. Like, it was never a goal. It was clearly not a goal. I knew it from the radio broadcast. It wasn't a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Kathy does, raise that salient point. Black laces versus white. I also want to give a shout out to Kathy's dad. He was a big Canucks fan. He recently passed away this weekend or in the last few days. And I just, want to give a shout out to her family, all of those that knew her father, from what little I can pick up through social media. Big Canucks fan. In fact, she shared a picture of him watching the Canucks on an iPad in the hospital. And, that's a consummate fan, right? Cheering the team on. So, you're Kathy, if you're listening, if your family's listening, please understand, our thoughts are with you and I know your dad, as I said, had an opportunity to watch this game too and watch the Vancouver Canucks get a dub. Anyhow, last comment from Threads. This one is from Alice Cardinal, Woobles. The commentators, they seem to be one-sided. So we're spoiled in Vancouver with how we've had gosh, going back to the, dawn of the Vancouver Canucks, we've had good commentators. In more modern eras, obviously, Jim Houston, who made it up to the national side, who, what's interesting enough, when he was the Hockey Night in Canada guy, people out east used to complain about his bias to the West Coast. We've had John Shorthouse here, obviously. We had Shorthouse in the first round. We don't get Shorthouse in the second round. Why? Sportsnet has a national crew. Chris Cuthbert and what's his name? Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. Former Edmonton Oiler.
Craig Simpson?
Anyhow. Yes, Craig Simpson. Thank you. They're the national pair. So it didn't matter, that Shorty's our guy. The fact that the Canadian teams are playing together means you get the national crew. If it was like Vancouver and Toronto, I think Craig and Chris are out east and we probably still get Shorty. But now that it's two Canadian teams, whichever Canadian team comes out of this gets that crew. Did they come across as one-sided? I am in the minority, I know. I don't think they were. I feel that Chris Cuthbert provides a balanced play-by-play. I'll admit Craig Simpson does tend to, and this is just even outside of the playoffs, surface what I feel is sometimes the superstar or the obvious choice, more than maybe some of the other players, the role players. And let's be honest, the Canucks have more of those players than Edmonton happens to have. JT Miller, great player. Brock Besser, great player. Petey, great player. Of those three, really only two of them have been great. Quinn Hughes, great player, but Quinn's role is different.
Yeah. As regards to the broadcast team, I don't think it's one-sided. I do think it's just generally weaker. We've had a
not Shorty standard?
Yeah. I just think it's one doesn't have the same character. It doesn't have the same humor. And I would say it's just not as, it doesn't feel as accurate or, there'll be times when, on Friday, there was an Edmonton goal that Cuthbert didn't even raise his voice for. I was just, barely paying attention. And I was there's just moments that disappoint you. And I don't think there's any, bias at all. I don't feel like it's anything like that. It's just not as good.
Well, I think it's also fair to point out that there's a reason why we as Canucks fans are partial to Shorty and Tomlinson or Shorty and Ferraro. And prior to that, Shorty and Cheech. Those are the voices that we have grown really accustomed to. And we may look at them as they're balanced. Yeah, they're Canucks, hometown broadcast talent, but they're always fair to the opposition. Only to a certain extent. Their focus is on the Canucks. They're paid.
Sure. And that's
by the team or by
the same
the team. So
any broadcast. I just, It's the kind of thing,
Cuthbert and Simpson are not Oilers fans.
No. And that's the thing. I don't think there's any kind of bias one way or the other. But it's kind of whenever we get the national call on games, you kind of realize how good we have it, especially with John Shorthouse. And so when it's repeatedly every couple days and you're not getting John Shorthouse back, it's just okay. It's not ruining the experience of the games at all, but it's not as good as it could be.
No, agreed. Anyhow, Vancouver Canucks are back in action against the Oilers on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Mountain Time, if you happen to be taking the game in Edmonton. They're then back home on Thursday the 16th. At what time? To be determined. This is TV written all over it.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because it's not going to be later. So hopefully there is an Eastern team or game being played that requires that game be 7:00 and not sooner. If the Vancouver Canucks then need to go on to Game 6, that's back in Edmonton on the 18th, Saturday, again, to be determined. And if for some reason there is a Game 7, back here in Vancouver on Monday the 20th. Are you still committed to Canucks in 7, Anna?
I think so.
I am. I'm still committed to 7.
I think we've seen the weaknesses of Canucks exposed very much by Edmonton, but they've been the weaker team in at least 2 out of these 3 games.
Yeah.
And
maybe the Canucks pulled
even
out the
3.
win on Friday, I would have said in 5.
Yeah.
But
wow.
They didn't pull out the win on Friday. Still in 7. It's a back and forth series, I feel. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. We'll see.
One last note before we take a break and then dive into half full, half empty. As is our normal practice, if it's a long weekend, we take a break. May long weekend is coming up next weekend. Normally that would mean a break, but this is playoff hockey. There ain't no breaks in playoff hockey. In fact, Anna and I had been talking about contingency plans. If this game had gone into stupid overtime and we had to record on Monday where you weren't available, that didn't transpire. But we are going to make sure that this episode and the subsequent episodes are heard until such time as the playoffs are over, which we hope doesn't occur for the Vancouver Canucks until June. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
While the episode that you're listening to might not be as quick as we had originally thought it could be, because, hey, when has anything with you and I ever been quick? We did want to take a spin around the rest of the league, because there are obviously some other series that are well underway. Keeping ourselves here in the West, Dallas is currently up 2-1 against Colorado. The Colorado Avalanche came out and got themselves a 4-3 overtime win in Game 1. Dallas took that as offensive in some way, shape, or form, have proceeded to rattle off 5-3 and 4-1 wins. The 4-1 win most recently this weekend, Colorado didn't look to be the good team. Dallas is definitely a good team.
Yes.
I kind of wonder how much further this game goes. The only thing that really I feel goes in Colorado's favor is Game 4 is still in Colorado. But if the Avs don't pull out a victory here, I do not see them winning back in Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, I did call Avs in 7, I believe. But I called Avs either way. And I was feeling a bit smug about it early on in the series. But I do think Dallas's superior talent is showing through. And it doesn't help that Ottinger's remembered that he's an elite goalie, which he sort of came and went in round 1.
But how much is that the Vegas factor?
Sure. And, Vegas were within a hair's breadth of going through to the second round.
Yeah.
I am kind of pleased. Dallas are a really fun team to watch, and they have some fun players, so yeah. I'm okay with that.
Out east, New York, Carolina, they had already been underway. When we recorded our last episode, the Rangers had won 4-3. Since that game, the Rangers then won Game 2, 4-3 in double overtime. They proceeded to then win Game 3, 3-2 in overtime. It just felt to me like Carolina just wasn't going to get a break in this series whatsoever. So color me surprised that in Game 4, they were able to hold on to have a 4-3 victory to ensure that they weren't the team swept and in a position to have New York just kicking it back old school while what could very well be a longer Western playoff.
Yeah, it is kind of fun, isn't it, that the Western Conference does have more than one powerhouse team. And the East, it's kind of there's a couple good teams, but New York seemed to be by far the best team in the East. Like,
do you think Carolina extends the series when they play? I mean, you're listening to this episode. It's tonight, or it's happened. Like, it's 4:00 Monday. Or is that series over in Game 5?
Game 5, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if Carolina's got it into them to beat the Rangers in New York. Though, I should cut them a little slack. They took New York to double overtime in Game 2. Like, it could have gone either way. But it just feels to me that the Rangers have that elite team, mentality and know how to close things out. I think that's what they're going to do here in Game 5. And then when we go and we jump into the other series out east, the Boston Bruins just manhandled the Florida Panthers in Game 1. 5-1 victory. And you're thinking, holy smokes, did I underrate Boston or what? Because I said Florida in 3. You and I were like, Florida's going through for all sorts of reasons. Apparently, Florida simply forgot that the series started on Monday. I don't know if anyone got the memo. They lost 5-1 and then decided to embarrass Boston not once, but twice in games 2 and 3, getting 6-1 and 6-2 victories. And then as we'd sort of discussed the game tonight, a little controversy involved. But the Florida Panthers race back being down 2-0 to win 3-2.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you just love to see it. Like, it's so fun for Boston to be on the wrong end of, playoff officiating, of, like, gross, sneaky play, like 18-year-old, 30-year-old Sam Bennett is, like, sucker punching Brad Marchand and getting away with it. Like, couldn't happen to a nicer team.
The only thing that would have made it better is if Brad Marchand got himself a penalty for being sucker punched.
Yeah, true. But, as you know, that referee
Daniel
is
Sedin's
busy
still
right now.
Yeah, that's right. It was officiating Game 2 for Vancouver and Edmonton. So unlike the Carolina-New York series, I feel Boston wins Game 5. I don't,
because they're angry.
Like, they're angry.
Florida wins it in 6.
But I mean, Florida winning in Boston to eliminate the Bruins, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I'm saying Florida in 5.
Really, you think Florida closes it out in Sunrise? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, regardless, I think we both now agree Florida still closes it out. If we had recorded this episode shortly after Game 1, I might have changed my mind. But Games 2, 3, clearly Florida's the better team. Boston finally woke up for tonight, but then still, Florida figured out a way to get that puck past Swayman. Regardless, it is appearing that the East could be wrapped up at the start of this upcoming week, while the West potentially, could have a series that gets wrapped up midweek. But Edmonton, Vancouver, again, I don't think this one wraps up before the end of the week. I think it goes into at least the weekend. Mm-hmm. Oh, and as you and I both said, we still think it's going to go the distance. So could mean that the Eastern teams have to wait a many few days before things get back onto even kill.
Yep.
I have to ask you, what's going on in Abbotsford? Are they done?
They're done, so. I mean, what's going on in Abbotsford right now is Vancouver Canucks watch parties. So at least they're putting the ice to good use. But yes, unfortunately, despite a very close game, they were 2-0 up on Friday. Ended up losing. They got to round 2 of the playoffs again. They've had a so-so season. There's been some really good play. There's some really good players. I do think, Ashley Bates is like a shining light in that team. Christian Wolanin just continues to be elite at that level. Mm-hmm. Whether he's going to show that at a higher level, I don't know. And besides that, in terms of players who are never really going to be, NHL superstars, but, John Stevens had a bounce-back season. He's been, with the Canucks organization for a long time, and had a really good, strong season. Sheldon Dry is still great. Tristan Nielsen, scrapper, scores goals, really fun to watch. Max Sasson, I would say, I watch him with interest. He may be a call up next year because he's been really exciting with the team. So, yeah, I think Arshdeep Baines and Max Sasson are definitely the ones to watch from an adult Canucks perspective. But overall, it's been
they're not adults in Abbotsford.
Yeah, they're
Just
babies.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall entertaining season. But yeah, they weren't they weren't going to be playoff, champions like that.
So did they punch within their class or did they punch above their class?
I mean, I would say within, and honestly, they could have moved on if they moved on to the third round, which they were close to doing. Mm-hmm. That was when there would be punching above their weight, for sure. But, yeah, I think still signs to be encouraged by. This franchise is still pretty young, so, yeah, sprouts, shoots of potential.
Sure. I don't know where you were going with that, but I agree.
Plant metaphor, because they are farmers down there. There you go.
Oh, okay. Generally, if you have to explain it, it's considered a miss.
Yeah, could you tell I was grasping at straw?
Oh, Anna. Oh, I'm scared to, throw it to your final thoughts, because we are at the point of the episode as to where we wrap things up. A very quick episode comes in currently at under an hour, though we could push it beyond. We're still talking. But yeah, what final thoughts or words of wisdom do you have for listeners this week?
Final thoughts is this playoff series is killing me, but, I am just all here for Canucks winning games they shouldn't win. It's fun, and it promises to get even feistier, so let's go.
Final thoughts for me: ensure that you're hydrating yourself well. 1, the temperature is going up. It's important to continue to remain hydrated. 2, it helps you maintain your voice as you scream and shout and curse and swear and everything that you do as it pertains to Canucks playoff hockey. I think I shared this last week. I've shared it before. My daughter is getting to experience playoffs daddy, and it's a whole different daddy than regular season daddy or not season daddy. Playoffs daddy is just a different experience.
Stop saying daddy.
Daddy, who's your daddy? Me. No. I actually said that once and she responded, "You are." And I'm like, yeah, not going to say that again.
Yep. But, we can say Zaddy for Zadorov, and that's it. That's all I support.
Big F and Z.
Yeah.
The Canucks better sign him. Oh my goodness. I know it could, and we're going to talk about it more in the off season, but if he's pricing himself out of the Canucks market, I'm going to be so sad.
I know. I mean, him saying what we're all thinking, that there's nothing to do in Edmonton but watch hockey.
Well, it was like a backhanded comment, right?
I know, he's so funny.
They're great fans because there's nothing else to do other than watch hockey.
Yeah.
In fairness, he came from Calgary, so he's got that, already sort of ingrained in his soul, being from the opposition. If you've reached this point of the show and you haven't done so already, I would love for you to subscribe to us. Obviously, we are in every podcast platform there is out there. And if there isn't one you find that we're not, let me know and I'll fix it. You can find us on all the social media platforms at the C4 Podcast, except for Threads, because for some reason, someone else has it, or maybe it's me who had it and doesn't know how to fix it. We're at the real C4 Podcast on Threads. You can find myself at the Light Force or at Light Force. Actually, the Light Force is just a TikTok thing. And then you are A403 everywhere. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I also want to bring attention to, which we do every show, is if you have reached, the stage where you're like, hey, I'd love to support the show. You can throw a few bucks our way. You can go to c4podcast.com, click on the support button. It'll take you over to Buy Me a Coffee, or as Ann and I like to call it,
buy us a pint.
And you can throw a couple bucks our way, either as a one-off to actually buy us a pint or two. You could commit to us to subscribe on a monthly or annual basis. And in doing so, helps us keep the lights of the show on, pay for the production of the podcast and all that jazz. And if you do annual, you get an exclusive C4 sticker. Very exclusive. Only a handful of people in Canada and about 1,000 people in the UK have them.
And let's be real, I just came from the Rogers watch party. The beers are just expensive, unless you want to drink Molten, which, is a health hazard. The beers are just expensive as a regular game, so we need that pint money.
Yeah. As always, join Discord, discord.io/C4podcast, where we chat about all things. Right now, Anna and Axel are talking about food nonstop. It's good to see, although Axel's in Japan, so his food's a little more exotic.
Yeah,
than the exotic food you're
Axel
sharing
definitely
from,
is winning.
Yeah. We do talk about Canucks and the NHL and playoff hockey and all that jazz. But yeah, check out c4podcast.com. Our website's been updated. I finally got around to use a service to fix it.
Hey.
Works for the most part.
We'll take for
So
the
on
most
behalf
part.
of Anna, A4 Street, myself, Chris at White Forest, going to sign off this episode with We Out.